All right, YouTube, we are live. This is attempt number 2, and yeah, I'm gonna out myself a bit. I didn't click go live on OBS. You got to hit start broadcast and hit go live, as if start broadcast was not good enough for OBS. But we are officially here on a Thursday night. The Yankees win their 6th straight series. Andrew win the first one, drop the second against Nathan Eovaldi, which we'll get to that game a little bit further into the show, and then they get the win today 9-2, an earlier afternoon game as the team heads to Milwaukee to face the Brewers this weekend for another 3-game set. It was a great game today, Andrew. The Trent Grisham game, as I said, as I've been kind of coining it today, checked fantasy throughout the afternoon at work, saw he was having a great game, and we talked about it, Andrew, in the previous episode on the channel, that a lot of the numbers and the statistics that we're looking at on his baseball savant page, a lot of his projected stats were projecting that he was about to take off, ascend a little bit. And that's kind of what we saw today and throughout the series a little bit. So, Trent Grisham had a great game. Jason Dominguez got injured. We hope that he has a speedy recovery with the AC, with the what is it, the AC sprain or the MC sprain with his
His
shoulder.
shoulder.
So we hope he's okay. He got carted off earlier today, which leads to the big news of the day. Spencer Jones getting called up for the first time to make his major league debut in his career. We got the Carlos Rodon season debut start on Sunday in Milwaukee. So we got a ton to unpack, and obviously we'll go through the entirety of the Rangers series. We'll preview the Brewers series coming up. So we got a lot to unpack, Andrew. And again, thanks for joining me here on a Thursday night.
Yeah, Thursday night pod. I believe this is the latest pod we've done, so I'm interested to see what kind of thoughts come out of our brain at this time of night. But yeah, it was a really good game today. As you mentioned, Trent Grisham had a really good game. We did point it out that he was kind of trending in that direction. Still haven't seen him put a full series together, which is something that I want to see. A couple games ago, I think in the Baltimore series, he had 2 doubles that were hit really, really hard. But again, as a whole in the series, didn't have an awesome series. And then obviously today he had a great game, but was 0 for in the prior 2 games. So trending in the right direction for sure. Would definitely like to see him, put more of a series together. And today he wasn't even in the leadoff spot because they were facing that lefty, so he was part of the bottom of the order, and it was a bottom of the order that really did well. You mentioned the Jason Dominguez injury, and it's an unfortunate one because it kind of felt like he was starting, like the leash was starting to be let go a little bit. It was starting to be because he doesn't hit against left-handed pitching. He hasn't, at least for a long, long time with the Yankees. And today was a day where they were willing to go with him against Mackenzie Gore. And not only that, they were willing to play him in left field, which is another thing in recent years, they've been hesitant to do. So I was kind of excited to see how he would perform on both fronts. Now, to begin the game, it seemed like he was on a great start in left field, right? That catch was incredible, but he
Right.
hit the deck, and obviously he gets carted off the field. So it's unfortunate there. He was having a great AAA outing, obviously, and he came up and had some big hits already for us, and a pretty good opportunity for him. But yeah, next man up, like you said, with Spencer Jones, and yeah, just unfortunate for him.
And Yankee fans finally get what they've been kind of asking for, which was to see Spencer Jones. And I know that I kind of held that opinion. I don't want to speak for you, but I thought it was about time we kind of saw what he had to offer. And I understand a lot of the reasoning why we haven't seen it to this point is just because the Yankees have a ton of depth. That was a point of emphasis in last year's trade deadline, keeping things going into this year, right? They wanted to make sure that they had their bases covered and that if they were put in a position like they were today, where they were, I don't want to say down to their last option because I don't think Spencer Jones is like bottom of the barrel option, but they put themselves in a position where a Spencer Jones call up or the pressure of that was tabled. Like there had to be a lot of things quote unquote go wrong for the Yankees for this situation to arise. And I think a lot of it, Andrew, had to do with they just kind of ran out of depth and some of the options that they had at the major league level, maybe they just don't feel comfortable enough relying on for a week or 2 week or however long it lasts between Stanton and Dominguez on the IL, which I'm sure Dominguez at this point will be on it longer than Stanton will be. But they do need someone that can play in the outfield. So, and now with Rice not playing as well with the thumb injury, it opens up the DH spot, it opens up left field. So it kind of opens up a couple different spots for Jones to fit right in with this lineup.
Yeah, I'm super excited about Spencer Jones. was Jason Dominguez, as we saw. But it's nice to know that at least he's their second option. There's a world in past years where if the Yankees were put in this position, maybe they just roll Ahmed Rosario in the outfield for a series, or heck, even Jose Caballero or like Max Schumann. So it's nice to see that they're actually giving the guy a chance. Um, I don't like love that, Elmer Rodriguez got called up, right? He makes two starts and he's back down. And most likely Spencer Jones is probably going to be up for a series or two and then he'll be back down. So I don't love that, like, they get their call to the big leagues and they're only going to be up here for two or so series. But I mean, that's just the way it works. I'm sure he's excited about it. And I hope he creates some chaos. I mean, this is a guy that, if you don't know much about Spencer Jones, he's a high strikeout guy. So you got to get used to that. Very Joey Gallo esque in the sense
Oh
of
boy.
strikeouts. He will strike out 200 plus times if you give him a full season. However, he did that last year in the minor leagues while also pairing that with around 40 home runs, and he hit 270. So, yes, Joey Gallo like because he can hit home runs, he can walk, and he strikes out a lot. But on Joey Gallo like in that he can hit for average as well. The guy hits the ball hard. Everybody says he's a lefty Aaron Judge. He's 6'7", plays great defense, hits from the left side, as I just mentioned. First round pick out of Vanderbilt in 2022. And those Aaron Judge comps were back then as well when he was drafted. So a lot of firepower. The guy really hits the ball hard. He's a big swinger, man. He's either going to absolutely clobber it or he's going
All
to
right.
completely miss it. So we'll see.
And you can see the numbers in AAA while it is just 33 games, but it is 142 plate appearances, hitting just under 260, 11 homers, 41 RBI, which stands out to me again on a 33 game sample size. I would always say that to always surpass in a stat like that, surpass the number of games you've played in a tally, it always I think is a good benchmark to look at to kind of encapsulate how he's doing so far in a year. Like imagine if Judge finished a year with 170 ribbies and played 155 games. Like that like that's a way that you can really look at someone's year and just be like, yeah, he just figured it out. Like he was just slugging the ball. So and a 958 OPS, which I know you're a big OPS guy, and I mean it's hard to ignore some of these I don't even want to say advanced analytics or statistics at this point because it's just baseball has become such an analytical and statistic sport that it's hard to ignore a lot of these numbers, and I feel like OPS now being displayed more often than it used to be. Now I haven't been to a Yankee game, Andrew, in forever. I think the World Series game 3 maybe was the last because I didn't go to a game last year, which was kind of disappointed in myself. But I do remember for a time the Yankees displayed OPS on the scoreboard, Andrew, and not average on like the lineup part of the jumbotron. And I wonder too
Yeah,
if
they do.
that's just to get people familiar with it. But to that point, just seeing it everywhere, it's just become it's become like average. I've just been used to seeing it everywhere, and a 958 OPS is a really really good number to be at.
Yeah, I mean, look, OPS tells you a lot. Average, it's a good number, right? I mean, it tells you how often a guy is getting on base via hitting the ball. But OPS kind of takes that a step further. It's saying, okay, this guy's getting on base, but how is he getting on base? Is he getting on base through doubles and home runs and triples? So it's more valuable in that way. I still think average has its value, but yeah, I like seeing it. I look at it when I look at prospects. I mean, for him especially, he's obviously he hits the ball a mile and he hits the ball 100 miles an hour. So he's one of those guys that's probably going to have a higher OPS. I just like that he's not necessarily, or as he's shown in the minors, we'll see how he progresses in the major leagues over these next few years. But in the minors, he hasn't been necessarily a three true outcome guy. Yeah, walks, strikeouts, homers, huge part of his game. But that average being 270 last year tells me a lot. It's not the only thing that he can do. So we've seen a player like that before in Joey Gallo, and I didn't really love it that much, and not a lot of people did. So it's nice to see that he's kind of a mix between that and a guy who can hit for average.
And we always find a way, Andrew, to have a 6-7 moment on this pod, which is not by design. And I wanted to bring up Spencer Jones's height because a lot of people, right? You say they remind him of Joey Gallo when he was first drafted. Everyone just envisioned him and Judge sharing the outfield, both being as tall and as big of figures as they are, right? Spencer Jones, 6'7", and he'll be most likely out in left field playing where Dominguez was playing. It really is something a sight to see, right? Because you still do have Stanton who will be back. I do wonder if we ever get a game where the three of them are in the lineup together, and not that we would get the three of them in the outfield at the same time, right? Stanton's no way he's playing the outfield anymore, but it would be cool to just get a picture, whether it be in batting practice, whether it be in the dugout. And I'm sure Yankee social media people, whoever is in charge of that, the photographers, I'm sure they're on it. I'm sure that's at the top of their to-do list. Do you know, Andrew, if Stanton is traveling with the team despite being on the IL? Is that like, is he's not with the team?
I don't yeah, I'm not sure unless they plan on maybe activating him during the next series. I can't imagine he
Okay.
travels, but who knows?
Because I just want a picture of the three of them side by side,
Yeah.
and like from the back of their jersey, seeing like their numbers. I think that would be a really really cool picture, and just seeing the pure height and mass that the three of them have, and they'll put together some like combined stat, or someone will at least, they'll tally up the height. It'll be like 15 inches in height and whatever 500 pounds or not more than that, 700 pounds, whatever the number would be. I can already see it happening on Twitter. So that's some content that I want to see. But uh, it's funny because Spencer Jones is, and I promise we'll get to the rest of this Ranger series. We'll move on from this. But Spencer Jones was in the news recently before this call up because of a Anthony Volpe base running mistake, Andrew. And he hits a ball. I believe I have it on my phone, so I don't want to get this wrong. I think it was with two outs. It
Yeah,
might have been a
Volpe was
tie
on first.
game.
Yep.
He was on first base, and Jones hits a towering shot off the wall in right field. And this is a tall wall. If you go on X and look at the video, this is not some miniature wall. Like, it's a big wall. Hits it, and Volpe does not score from first. And again, with two outs, you're running on contact. Doesn't matter where the ball is being hit. So, not to pick on Volpe, but this was kind of why Spencer Jones was in the news recently up until today. It was because of an Anthony Volpe mistake. So just kind of
Yeah,
interesting.
and another Anthony Volpe mistake literally popped up on my timeline before we went live. He missed some, like, easy ground ball to shortstop. So the kid's not having a great time down there right now, and I'm sure he'll figure it out, but yeah, I don't know, man. I feel like Spencer Jones is gonna be pretty good. I think Yankee fans are gonna make some noise around him based on these next 6 or whatever game amount of games he's played. I don't know how many games he's gonna play, to be honest, because yeah, they made it work with Dominguez, because they had the DH spot open a lot. I don't know how much that's gonna be open. I don't know when Ben Rice is expected back. They say he's not going to go on the IL, right? So then that means he's probably going to be back in the next couple days, and you kind of got a full outfield, right? In Grisham, Judge, and Bellinger, and it's not like if a lefty was on the mound, okay, we could just hit Spencer Jones. He's a righty, right? Like, he's also a lefty. So that whole thing, I don't know how they're going to handle it. I don't know how much Spencer Jones will see, but I hope we see a good amount, because I do think he could make a difference in the next few games.
And a big thing too with him, besides his towering figure and his power, which is the obvious, and he apparently has some really good speed. Which, I mean, I'll be honest, I'm not watching every single Scranton Rail Riders baseball game. I'm not really keeping up with his highlights from a game to game basis either. But when you do have news like this of someone being called up, you see a lot of the reporters kind of starting to cover this, and you start to read up on some of his attributes. And again, the power is obvious, but the speed, like if he gets a hold of one in the gap, he'll obviously get to second, and he might be in contention to run out some triples, which was kind of a hot commodity, Andrew, in this Texas series. With, I mean, I feel like in past years we have not seen this many triples, and in large part because Texas misplayed a couple balls in the outfield, let the ball get to the wall, and at least in the case for Goldschmidt. But Bellinger, well, and he is going to be a topic of discussion. Bellinger, Andrew, has been fantastic. He had not one but two triples in just this Texas, or in this the last two series combined, I should say. He's been red hot, and we talked last episode how important it was, and that's the obvious. But I don't think any of us, and again, it's 7 game stretch, but I don't think any of us maybe expected this from Cody Bellinger at this point in his career. Maybe people did, and maybe the Yankees did for giving him that kind of a contract, but he is playing really, really well right now.
Cody Bellinger's a real deal hitter. I mean, ever we talked about it a little bit in the last episode. He's changed things, and that's like refreshing, because we don't see that from a lot of guys in the MLB, right? Like, he went from this strikeout a ton, hit a lot of home runs, to, he actually has like a two strike approach, and he's had that for the past couple of years, and he's playing a lot better than he did last year. And last year was a heck of a good year. So yeah, I'm excited, because it feels like we have a Soto type presence in Ben Rice in the lineup when he's there. Now, whether that continues, I don't know. I think it should to some degree, but who knows, right? We kind of have that Soto type lefty hitting ahead of Judge right now. We didn't have a Bellinger in the lineup the last time that happened, right? It was just Soto and Judge. Now we have that Bellinger to add to that combo if it stays that way. So just him playing at a high level is so huge. You mentioned the triples; they had two triples in the first inning today. Just they're playing really good offensively, and after a stretch where they played really good pitching wise, this was needed, because not to say that the Yankees pitching isn't great. It obviously is great, but every staff and every bullpen is going to have, their hills and their valleys where they pitch well and they don't. And this was a series where the pitching, wasn't great. We saw a bad outing out of Will Warren. Obviously, Elmer Rodriguez didn't do his things. So, there were a couple things here and there that, didn't go the Yankees' way. And we saw today Ryan Weathers wasn't able to start because of an illness, so they had to go bullpen game. So they had to mix it up pitching wise. And it was nice to see that the offense, now in the middle game, they were shut out by Nathan Eovaldi again, which we will also talk about. But it's nice to see that the offense really performed in this game three in the rubber match, and got it done.
Yeah, and to bounce back from that second game, not once but twice, right? I mean, because the last series against Texas was kind of a similar story. They win the first game, or they win the first two, right? And then they lose the third game. And what do they do their next game out? They score seven against Baltimore. So despite being shut out, or not even shut out, but just shut down in both the Evaldi starts this year, the following game they come out and they act like it didn't even happen, which is a great mindset for baseball because it's a purely mental and confidence game, and there are so many games, so you cannot be hung up on, in this case, game, what would have been 30, 36. You can't be hung up on game 36 of the season, right? When there's 130 more to be played. So I thought it was really telling to me to see the Yankees come out today, score 9 runs, and to get some oh, very great input from lefty like Grisham off of Mackenzie Gore, the lefty lefty, which is something that we talk about a ton because Boone and a lot of managers around the MLB, they go with the matchups. They want as many righties in there as they can against a lefty. They want as many lefties in there against a righty. And in some instances, there are just some players. We've had this discussion about Ben Rice early on in the year, not being a platoon guy. Not that Trent Grisham would really be benched in a spot like this, but it is a spot where I'm sure Boone would kind of hope that there was some righty option to put in there and on a more consistent basis. So for Grisham to be in there with these at bats against the lefty and Gore, to go out there to do as well as he did today, going, what was the final tally here? 3 for 5 and with 3 RBI. And again, not all of that against Gore, but he did have that big 3 RBI double against Gore. Was really telling to me too. So again, big confidence game, like what I see from Trent and Cody, man. I you just you can't make up what he's doing. 14 for 26, a 5.38 average over the span of the last 7 games. So that's 4 against Baltimore, 3 against Texas, 2 homers, 2 triples, 12 RBI in that 7-game stretch. So Cody Bellinger has just been, if there is something above red hot, Andrew, if there's a word for that, he's above that. He might be at the sun because it is incredible just watching him every day. I can't believe it how well he's playing.
Hey, he's got 10 extra base hits in 7 games. I mean, that's it. That's just doing his thing right now. And I think we'd be remiss if we didn't mention another lefty that kind of came into the game today unexpectedly, right? We mentioned that Dominguez got hurt. Well, that slid Ahmed Rosario into the outfield and opened up third base for Ryan McMahon against a lefty who had a 3-hit game, had a really nice game, was on base 4 times. So just the lefties in this game, especially Bellinger, Grisham, Ryan McMahon, and really in the series, have just been great. And in a series where you're missing, arguably the best left-handed hitter in baseball right now, and Ben Rice, the other left-handers, stepped up. So yeah, I mean, look, obviously you're going to have games. I'm sure the Yankees are pissed at themselves about Nathan Eovaldi dominating them twice in the span of a week. But you're going to have games like that where you don't score, and you're going to have games where, Will Warren gave up, 6 runs, and it's the first time he's allowed more than 2 runs all season. So, he's going to have games like that too. It's nice that they responded. I mean, they were dead last night. That game
Right.
was dead. Couldn't hit crap against Eovaldi. All the Rangers were doing was hitting against Warren, and for them to come out and just absolutely dominate the Rangers. And Mackenzie Gore, for what it's worth, I mean, he's a huge strikeout pitcher, and the Yankees are strikeout prone a lot of the time. So, I know he has a high ERA, and he is subject to give up some of these runs in some of these games like this, but he's a high strikeout guy where, it could have been 1 run, 10 strikeouts for him today, and I would have thought, yeah, that's Mackenzie Gore, or it could have been the way it was today. So it was nice to see them step up after such a draggy loss yesterday.
And so let's touch on the Evaldi, the
Yeah.
success that Nathan Evaldi has had against the Yankees this year, because he's had 2 starts in both, and the only times that these two will face each other unless the postseason comes around, and both, obviously the Yankees are trending in that direction. The Rangers are not, however. It is still early on, but that would be the next time these two would face if it were a potential American League playoff scenario. But in the 2 starts that Evaldi has played, that's had against the Yankees, he is just flat out dominated. Again, for what I said about with Bellinger, if there was a better word than dominated for what we're about to talk about, I would say it if I knew it, right?
Yeah.
15 innings pitched across 2 starts, 7 hits, just 1 run, 1 walk, 15 strikeouts. And again, not to pat myself on the back, but this was something that I was concerned with. For the first time these he was going to face the Yankees, I had a feeling that he was just going to pitch his ass off. And not to really out myself, but it wasn't really based on anything in the past because he doesn't face the Yankees all that often. He just seemed like that kind of pitcher with his pitch mix. He threw a lot of splitters. He typically was a high strikeout guy in a lot of outings in his career to begin with. Between him and DeGrom, I just had a feeling that either one of the two they were going to have issues with. It ended up being both in the first go around. The second time around, give the Yankees credit, they got to DeGrom, they got him out of that game with 4 earned runs, and Jazz had a nice home run to break the tie, which we'll talk about that a little bit too, just how they kind of figured out DeGrom. But Andrew, they seemingly couldn't figure out Evaldi the second go around.
No, and it's funny. We were kind of preparing for this episode, and you're like, you know what? I'm gonna put like a graphic together about how well Evaldi has done. Like, why do you think he dominated so much? Does he have a splitter? And yeah, he has a splitter. That's
Yeah.
why he's dominating so much. This team can't figure out really how to hit splitters. I tried to do some advanced research and see how they perform as a whole against splitters. I couldn't nail that stat down. I think I really would have had to dig deep for that one. But yeah, they've struggled against splitters. We saw it against the Blue Jays. I mean, it sucked, man. It sucked watching them. Every pitcher seemed like, even if they didn't have a splitter, they like learned a splitter the night before because they knew how badly the Yankees were against that pitch. And Evaldi, he's a 37% splitter guy, throws it around 40% against the Yankees. And yeah, they struggled. Didn't whiff on the splitter as much in this start. They whiffed on it a ton in the first go around, so at least they learned from that a little bit, but still couldn't put anything together against Nathan Evaldi. And let's I don't foresee having to face him in the postseason, but I definitely don't want to after how well he's dominated us in 2 starts. And it's going to be enough time in between where it's going to feel like we haven't faced him really all season, given that these 2 starts are just at the beginning of the season, if we do face him in the postseason. So I'm not rooting for that. We faced him in the postseason before when he was in Boston, and that didn't go our way either. So yeah, we don't play well against Nathan Evaldi, and let's just hope that's the last time we see him.
Yeah, let's hope indeed that's the last time we see him. I'm gonna look up and see his contract situation with them because I'm curious if by the deadline the Rangers see some worth in potentially trading him at the deadline to a contender. Uh, Being that he's aging, they did give him a recent contract, and if they don't foresee that they'll be competing anytime soon, at least this year, they might deem it if they can get something decent for him to trade him. His contract has him with the team through 2027, so he has this year and next year on his deal. So I
That's a
mean,
tradable contract.
it's a tradable contract. I guess to your point, the only concern, Andrew, would be is if they did go that route of potentially shopping Nathan Evaldi, you'd want him to not go somewhere in the American League because then that increases the chances you play him again in the playoffs, and that's doomsday scenario. I guess we're gonna go with that this early on in the year. Uh, but yeah, it would not be fun to see him go to another American League team, play the Yankees in the playoffs, because then I don't need to see that. Trade him to the National League. Trade him to the Cardinals. Trade him to somebody out there. I don't care.
I will say the 2 guys that have really good numbers against him are Judge and Stanton, and obviously Stanton hasn't seen him either time. Um, and there's an increased value to Stanton in the playoffs. So who knows? It would be like the worst thing in the world because our 2 like sluggers are pretty good against him. But yeah, let's not do that.
Well, last thing I'll say on that. it's great that they're good against him, but if the other seven guys can't even earn a
Yeah,
walk across two starts, or one walk across two starts, they're not really setting the table for any of those two guys. So, hey, listen, maybe Spencer Jones. They call him up, and all of a sudden he takes off like Ben Rice, and we're all just sitting here going, "Oh my goodness, what do we do now?" And Aaron Boone's going, "I don't know what the hell I'm gonna do." I think that's the worst possible scenario for Boone. Well, I mean, I say
yeah.
worst like it's like everyone's hitting 100 a buck 50, but I mean, I can't imagine the scenario in which Spencer Jones gets called up, right, and he immediately just hits the ground running, and Aaron Boone eventually has to make that call where and the answer is going to be Spencer Jones goes back down, because I think that,
100%.
which I mean, I think it's pretty self-explanatory, but it would stink, and I think a lot of fans would be like, "Hey, what are you doing? Like, why are you sending him down? He's playing very well," and then it's just this whole conversation that really isn't
There's
needed.
just there's simply no spot for him right
Right.
now. I mean, there really isn't. When Stanton comes back, especially, like, that DH spot's not open, so, yeah, just look, if he plays well, root for him, but don't get your hopes up because he's not gonna be here for a long time.
So, real quick before we get into our series MVPs, I want to go back to game one,
Yeah,
and talk about how the Yankees looked against DeGrom. Because game two, a wash, right? We talked about Evaldi. Essentially just, he owns the Yankees this year. It is what it is. Game three, we talked Trent Grisham, Mackenzie Gore. Game one, DeGrom, which was someone that the Yankees struggled against the first go around. The Yankees were fortunate to have Cam Schlittler on the bump that first go around, and they had a 1-0 lead off DeGrom for the majority of that game. And then they tack on a couple late runs, make it 3-0. And then Bednar, uh, due to a misplay in the infield, all of a sudden it's a 1-run game, 3-2. They win the game by that score. The Judge homer in the ninth inning was the key separator in that one. Now, fast forward a week later, Yankees win the game 7-4, and they seemingly tee off against DeGrom this time around. He did not have as much success as he did the first time.
yeah, and it wasn't a good start for Emil Rodriguez to start the game. I mean, he let up 3 runs in the first inning, so you're immediately down 3-0. You're kinda looking for you're mad down 3-0 against Jacob
Yeah.
deGrom. You just saw this guy, you struggled against this guy. Now, to the Yankees' credit, in the first game, they did hit well against him in the first inning, and really, I thought could have completely blown that first inning up had Evan Carter not made a really, really nice catch in the gap against Jazz Chisholm. We talked about that last time. So it kind of felt like, yes, they were dominated by Jacob deGrom because after that first inning, they really did nothing. But I did kind of see that at least the top of the order showed some type of capability to hit him hard. Now, whether he learned from that or not, who knows? It didn't look like he did because Ryan McMahon in the second inning responded with a 2-run home run to tie the game, which was huge because Ryan McMahon going into this series was starting to trend a little bit average wise. I think going into this series, he was like batting 270 over his last 10 games or something like that. I mentioned that in the last episode. And his power numbers still really weren't there, even over that 10-game stretch. And it was nice to see him just come out against a really, really good pitcher and, hit a 2-run home run. And it was like on an 8-pitch at bat as well. He swung badly at a couple sliders. I don't know. I forget what he hit it off of. Whatever pitch he hit it off of, he whiffed badly on the first pitch, and then he got that pitch again, and he fouled it off. And then the third time he got it, he hit it for a homer. So good adjustment in at bat from Ryan McMahon, and yeah, he got them going. And obviously, Jazz had to go ahead against Jacob deGrom. So nice to see a little power out of the Yanks against one of the better AL pitchers.
Yeah, and then Bellinger had a 2 RBI double, which those 2 runs were
It's
thrown
good.
onto DeGrom's stat line, so he finished with 6 earned runs, 7 strikeouts. And again, kind of what's funny is with all that, just 1 walk, and that was a discussion that we had where DeGrom's not a guy that gives you a free pass, right? And this time around, the Yankees were able to put the bat in the ball, which was why they had as much success as they did. But in the previous start, I believe he had either none or 1 walk as well. So again, good on the Yankees figuring out how to get to DeGrom, making those in at bat adjustments that you were just talking about with McMahon, and being able to put the bat on the ball because he wasn't going to give you free passes, and despite
And
him not
to
pitching
to
as
add
well.
on to that free pass point, I mean, that double you just mentioned, that was in the 7th inning.
Right.
So, like, he wasn't walking guys, he still went length. Yes, he gave up 4 runs going into that inning, but the guy was limiting his pitches, and he was still grinding through and giving his team length. So, yeah, I mean, just another guy I really don't wanna face in the playoffs.
Yeah, he had 94 pitches through 6 and a third. So yeah, and he faced 27 batters. So, not that that really matters, but yeah, to your point, he wasn't walking guys. He wasn't getting into deep counts. He was either giving up the hits early on or he was getting outs or striking out, I guess. He was getting 1-2, 0-2. So the Yankees, they did a good job. Because I honestly, Andrew, when I was watching the game, as soon as I saw 3-0 Texas first inning, knowing DeGrom was on the bump, I thought the Yankees lost that game. I'll be honest. I didn't think they'd be able to do as well as they did against DeGrom. I figured it would be similar and maybe a slight improvement than the first go around. So you're thinking maybe 2 runs over 6 innings, maybe a seventh inning. And then I am assuming that the Rangers score more runs off Elmer because I didn't think he'd just go the 1 inning. So I figured he was getting up a couple more. But credit to Elmer, he kind of locked in uh, over the course of his 4 2/3 after that bad first inning. But again, the biggest thing, Andrew, that stood out, which we talked about looking for in his second start, was the walks. That was the issue for him in his first time, and it was another issue
Yeah.
this time. 4 walks, just 2 strikeouts. A lot of that coming in that first inning, but you can see over the course of his 2 starts that was really the underlying issues to why he was struggling so early on as he was across the 2 starts. And we won't really focus a ton on Elmer. He did get sent down for making room for Rodon, which we'll get to in a second. But that was kind of, Andrew, what stuck out to me, just not really having control.
Yeah, that was the theme, and again, I brought that up when he came up, that was kind of an issue already in AAA. In his career, it's not been an issue. So I'm hoping he can kind of correct that. Maybe that's just an early season thing that's going on there. But yeah, when he came up in the majors, it was no different. Just a little too many walks, and when you give up walks, man, it's not good. It gets the pitch count up. You're facing more batters, so just not great for a rookie like that. He'll go back down. He'll do his thing, and I'm sure he'll be back up here at some point this season.
All right, so let's get to our series MVPs for the Texas series.
Yeah.
And this, we talked before the show, it really wasn't a pitcher type of series. There was not an outlier starting a start performance from the Yankees. There was no 8 inning Schlittler, 8 inning Fried. So we knew it was offense. And I'm not a huge fan of tooting my own horn, even though I already done it once this show. I'm going to do it again because the guy I'm going with was who I selected in our previous episode. I'm going Cody Bellinger, and I feel like this was the more obvious choice. You look at the numbers I have listed below: 600 average, 2 doubles, a triple, 5 RBI, and a 1.692 OPS, and not to mention almost a home run off the Grom. Right? I mean, 2 of those doubles.
Yeah.
Realistically, he's 2 feet from that stat line being a home run and 1 double instead of 2 doubles, and it'd be off the Grom. So and this is not that wasn't the first time, Andrew, this year he's been that close to hitting a
Yeah.
home run and that like right field wall. So I do feel bad for Cody. He's been kind of robbed of a couple the right field wall that's known as being a Mickey Mouse ballpark, right? Robbing a couple home runs. Uh Funny how that works. But anyway, so Cody Bellinger, just red hot. We talked about how great he's been, not just in this series, but dating even back to the start of that Orioles series and throughout that series, the last 7 game stretch, he's been one of the better hitters in baseball. And in this series, he really made his presence known. Had they followed up with back-to-back triples against DeGrom, which never happens. I've never seen the Yankees do that ever. With Goldschmidt first and then Bellinger afterwards. You could tell, Andrew, they were hunting fastball early in those counts. They were kind of hoping that he would throw a first pitch fastball, trying to get ahead in counts, and they were timing them up pretty nicely because DeGrom throws pretty hard, and Bellinger, pulled it to right field, wasn't late on it, kind of was expecting it, sitting on it. So I thought, aside from that at bat, in general for the entire series, Bellinger was really, really, really good.
Yeah, good award by you. I think those triples were against Mackenzie Gore in Game 3, not Jacob
Ah,
deGrom, but he did hit the
geez.
double.
Look at
He
me.
did hit the double
You're absolutely
against
right.
Jacob deGrom
Absolutely
off the
right.
wall. But yeah, I mean, it's a great pick. The guy was red hot. Back-to-back series MVPs for him now, I believe, right? He definitely won in that Orioles series. That Orioles
Yeah.
series was crazy.
My
So
rationale
yeah, the
was to
guys.
just stay with the hot hand too. I was just like, you
Yeah,
know
I
what?
mean, yeah,
That's it.
and it works, and it works. And as much as I'd like to toot my own horn and pink Trent Grisham here, I'm impartial. I don't lie. I tell it like it is, and I'm gonna go with another left-handed hitter, one that I think neither of us expected to get a Series MVP in the near future. I'm gonna go with Ryan McMahon. The guy's simply red hot. He had two hits in the first game, multi-hit game, including that game-tying 2-run home run off of Jacob deGrom, which we mentioned a short time ago, which was huge. I mean, they got the Yankees right back into it. Yeah, it was a 3-1 game, but as Dylan mentioned, you go down 3-0 against Jacob deGrom. I mean, wins are not promised. That's
Right.
that's a hard thing. That's a hard climb. And Ryan McMahon was a huge part of that climb, making it 3-3. And then obviously today wasn't even supposed to be in the lineup, and we get the Jason Dominguez injury that shifts some stuff around. He ends up at third base. He gets on base 4 times, makes a really big impact in the series in general. He bats 400, as you can see there, with a double, 3 RBIs, had a 1.3 OPS in the series. So just really awesome. And not to mention all the defensive plays he makes out there at third base as well. He is really, really coming into form. He made some adjustments in the offseason that he would hope would make him strike out less. We obviously did not see that to start the year. Maybe that's starting to come to fruition a little bit. If he could put it together and be like a 750, 800 OPS guy with his defense at third base, that would be extremely valuable to this roster right now. I hope he gets it going, man. I hope he continues, and I'm just really excited to see him, start hitting the ball a little better and start slugging the ball as well. And you mentioned that there's no real pitching that we can give this to. And you're right. I mean, the starters did not perform. But when the starters don't perform and the Yankees still really don't give up that many runs, that means the bullpen pitched really well. I think they only gave up 3 runs in this series, and they pitched a lot of innings, especially today, because as I mentioned before, Ryan Weathers was scratched with an illness. So this was a complete bullpen game, and they only gave up 2 runs. And those 2 runs were from Brendan Belt, who was making or Brendan Beck, who was making his MLB debut for the Yankees. The rest of the guys did not give up any runs. Pretty sure Yerry De Los Santos came up for a day
Mm-hmm.
and pitched 4 scoreless around there after Will Warren. So the bullpen had a really, really nice series. Really nice to see it from a lot of different guys. And in a series where you don't have a ton of length from your starters, which we've been so used to over the past month or so, it's nice to see that the bullpen, when they got their shot, stepped up as well.
Yeah, I was just looking. I think De Los Santos had 3 1/3, 5 Ks, which
Yeah,
that's pretty
that'll
efficient.
play.
But again, the Rangers are a team that we look at, and they're just not great. I mean, they are like a pedestrian team, right? They have some good players like DeGrom, Evaldi. They have some good offensive players. Seager, that's the main one that you think of. But they're just. I mean, the reason they're 17. There's a reason they're 17-20. At the end of the day, they're just
Yeah.
hot and cold, either good or bad. It's just you don't know what you're gonna get with the Texas Rangers. But yeah, to your point with McMahon, obviously that was I think the vision when they went out and acquired him last year at the deadline, that he would be a 750, 800 OPS guy with his defense already being what it is, already being at the high level that it is at. I think that was kind of the vision. So if the Yankees can get him to a point where that's consistently what he's producing, yeah, I mean that would be great. And maybe I fall back a little bit on my Ahmed Rosario take. I still do think Ahmed should be in there against lefties because I think he is still got a really good bat with some potential there. Now, he has struggled a bit since the start of the year where he was kind of winning that race and McMahon was not having a great start, obviously. And McMahon has been playing very well as of late. So I can understand why Boone might feel McMahon earns some more at bats, some more appearances throughout a couple series, even if it is against a lefty. We'll see if that changes, if Boone's philosophy on that does change. But uh, shout out to McMahon. It's not easy hitting a home run off the Grom. Uh, and
To your point, Ahmed Rosario got the start against the lefty today. It's just that Jason Dominguez thing switched a lot of things up. So, to your credit, I
Yeah.
mean, I do think it will pan out as a pure platoon because I don't anticipate Ryan McMahon actually becoming that 800 OPS guy. But I mean, if he does, I mean, that's an everyday guy. You want that defense back there. So if he does become that, I can't imagine they're going to platoon him too much longer. But yeah, for now, it's still going to be a true platoon.
All right, so let's get to the Milwaukee series. Let's preview this. So we got Max Fried versus Mizrowski game 1, which that's right there. That's must watch. Okay, even if you're not a Yankee or a Brewer fan, that's must watch baseball. You got a guy who can go 8 innings and just be really efficient and kind of like an artist when it comes to pitching. And you got Mizrowski who will give you 5 innings and could give you like 12 strikeouts, and just that's his day. And not to say that's what I want from a Yankee fan standpoint, but I also do look at it as this is game 38. I would not mind just being entertained by a Mizorowski like gem or a gem from Max Fried combined, and it's like a nothing game in the 8th inning. I will not complain. Like I won't come back here on the pod breaking down this series and like harping on the offense for not scoring, not hitting off Mizorowski if I'm also in the same breath wishing for a bit of a pitcher's duel, right? So now do I expect it? I'm not sure. Mizrowski is kind of hit or miss in the sense of either he's really on or there are some games where he is susceptible to control issues. I know a start in Boston, and the reason this comes to mind is because either he got hurt in the game and had to leave early in the start. I think that might be why it's sticking out to me. Something like that. I think he had like 10 strikeouts, but he had a bunch of walks in there. The Red Sox had timely hits. They were able to score runs, and his pitch count by virtue of the amount of the walks and the strikeouts, he's out of these games by 5, 6 innings most a lot of the time. So this should be the first game, I think, is the must watch game. Obviously, Rodon making his debut in game three. We'll be watching that pretty closely as well. And we'll break down kind of how he looked in his return, Andrew. But that first game, must see TV.
Yeah, selfishly, I wish it was Schlittler. I mean,
Yeah.
as cool as Max Fried versus Jacob Mizorowski is, like Cam Schlittler versus Jacob Mizorowski, like two of the young studs who a lot of people foresee to be like the guys going forward for the next decade would have been awesome. But I'm not going to complain with Max Fried and Jacob Mizorowski. That's must see TV for Yankee fans and Brewers fans. That's must see TV for MLB fans. I'm excited for that one for sure. And as you mentioned, I mean, Jacob Mizorowski, he's not a contact pitcher. I mean, this guy strikes guys out. So he's not going to be in the game in the seventh, eighth inning just purely based on how many pitches it takes to strike guys out sometimes, right? So I don't anticipate him going super deep into games. Who knows? Maybe he'll get on a roll and just absolutely crush us. I don't see that happening. I bet you he wants to face Spencer Jones. He's looking at a guy with 200 strikeouts in the minor leagues. He's like, you guys just called him up? Yeah, give me that guy. I'm going to make him with some more. I'm excited to see that matchup because man, I mean, if Jacob Mizorowski, 103-mile-an-hour fastball, and Spencer Jones connects, I'd like to see how far that baseball will go and how hard that thing will be hit. Jacob Mizorowski, if you're unfamiliar, he's a phenom. The guy throws a million miles an hour. He'll strike you out. He is really, really good. But Max Fried isn't too shabby either. I mean, that's a Cy Young candidate year in and year out. So that's a super duper exciting matchup. And then when you're done with Max Fried, Brewers, you'll get to face Cam Schlittler. And then when we're done with Cam Schlittler, we're going to bring on our other Cy Young guy from last year in Carlos Rodon to face you as well. So watch out, Brewers. I'm excited because, as good as the Yankees have been, and we're not going to complain that they're winning baseball games, but we are New York media in a sense, so we have to complain a little bit. Let's face it hasn't been against the greatest competition. Now, who's to say at the end of the year that won't be great competition? Who knows? We don't know how the season's going to shake out. But the only real competitive team that they've faced so far has been the Tampa Bay Rays, and they were swept. So this is a chance for another at least over 500 team that the Yankees can maybe beat up on a little bit in the Milwaukee Brewers. If you remember last year, I think we scored 30 runs in 3 games against them in the opening series.
Yeah,
That was
yeah.
when, the whole league thought we were cheating with our torpedo
The
bats and
torpedo
all that. That
bats.
was a
Yes.
crazy week. So I'm excited for that. I hope we tee off against them the same way. I don't anticipate that, at least in game one with Jacob Mizorowski. But who the hell knows? Let's have some fun against a National League opponent.
I gotta tell you, I didn't even think about this with the whole Spencer Jones calling up news, but at some point he must have been like obviously excited, celebrating with family and probably his girlfriend and whatnot. And then he realizes, oh shit, assuming he plays tomorrow, I gotta face Jacob Mizrowski as my first ever MLB pitcher. Like, fuck me. I'm gonna be honest. For a guy like you're right, 200 strikeouts, he knows in the back of his mind he strikes out a ton. Even he won't admit it to the public. You have to know that. And you're going up against one of the best strikeout
100%.
pitchers in baseball. I mean, that might be like death sentence for a start to your MLB career. Not to say that it's going to carry over and haunt him for the rest of his life, but it couldn't be like he was getting called up for the Baltimore series where we were picking between which opener was going to go out of the bullpen because the Orioles just stink. Like it couldn't have been somebody that easygoing. Had to be Jacob Mizorowski who's just going to pump 100 every single time.
Yeah, I mean, look, and you look at Kyle Harrison. That guy's a huge prospect that somehow the league let like the biggest pitching factory in baseball get their hands on, and obviously Logan Henderson as well is no joke, coming off his first start last week where he had a quality start. So yeah, a bit of a pitching factory he's going to have to come up against, and maybe this is like a casual fanny type take, and we don't like to be too ultra fan ESPN, like New York radio kind of people, but we are fans at the end of the day. Every time I've seen Spencer Jones in spring training, the guy plays, man. He just hits the ball hard and he plays really, really well. And who knows, maybe in the limited time, that's a limited time that he's on national TV with the Yankees in spring training and he's played really well. So maybe hopefully in the limited time that he has up here, he's going to play well as well. He just seems like a big game hitter to me. in the limited time that I've seen him. So I hope that plays out. I mean, again, if he gets a hold of like 103, that ball might be hit 120 miles an hour. I'm not even kidding.
Yeah, he might be in the running for the hardest hit baseball in the Statcast
Yes.
era, up there with O'Neal Cruz and I'm sure Ellie and obviously Stanton, probably the three guys at the top of that list. But yeah, it just because when I looked at the starter with Mizorowski, it reminded me. I was like, geez, Spencer Jones has to be sitting there just going, geez, really? Like this guy out of all
Yeah.
guys I could have gone against,
I'm
like
sure
it's
he's pumped.
I'm sure he is pumped, but I'm telling you, when he steps into that box tomorrow and he sees Mizorowski in there pumping 100, 101, he's gonna be like, "Oh, geez, here we go. Time to this is it, kid.
Yeah.
This is what you've been training all your life for. So let's go out there and show him what you can do." I'm excited to see
Let's
what he can do because you're right. If he can get a hold of one, he is the type of guy that just seems like he could put on a show if he is kind of in that groove. So, but it will be tough sledding for him in his first at bat against one of the better pitchers in baseball. Okay, so we'll come back to games 2 and 3. I just want to touch on Rodon returning, making his season debut on
Yeah, it's huge.
Sunday. It's big because we've been hinting at throughout the year the the plethora of starters that Aaron Boone has had at his disposal, and we've been hinting at this discussion of when Rodon and Cole come back, who are the two that will be funneled out, right? Heel was the first to go. Warren had a bit of a hiccup of a start, but you and I both agree that it probably won't be him. It'll be likely Weathers, who is under the weather, no pun intended, dealing with
That was
some
good.
kind of illness. But that's kind of the guy that we've been thinking is going to be the second guy out of the rotation when Cole's ready to come back. But Rodon comes in, Elmer Rodriguez sent down to AAA. Uh, I'm curious to see your thoughts or your expectations for Rodon. Give people an idea of how long they should expect him to be in the game for. Like, give us an idea if he's pitching, 2 run baseball, 3 run baseball, assuming that he's at like 75 pitches through 4 innings, 5 innings. Like, you know this stuff better than I do because you've been covering the Yankees for your own page for forever. You kind of know
Yeah.
Aaron Boone's tendencies at this point, when he likes to pull guys, if there's a pitch limit, stuff like that. So just kind of inform people your expectations for Rodon, and kind of how long into the game you think he'll go before being pulled.
Yeah, so I was at the Somerset Patriots game rehab start, I think last week, which was his second to last rehab start, and he went about 75 pitches. And then in his last rehab start in Scranton, he went about 83 pitches. So I assume he's going to be built for about 90 pitches or so. Like, I think we should be back to kind of full form. They say Cole's probably another 3 rehab starts behind him, so that's probably another half a month. But yeah, I'm excited for Carlos Rodon. I mean, maybe you looked at his last rehab start and saw he gave up 6 runs or whatever it was, and maybe you're kind of nervous.
Yeah.
That stuff really doesn't bother me a ton. Rehab starts to me feel like spring training, where the main focus for him is just to get built up and just to get pitches.
Right.
Obviously, he'd like those starts to be great, right? I mean, who doesn't want those starts to be great? But, he's just trying out pitches. He's trying to get his stuff in order. So it's kind of a spring training feel to me. So I'm not super worried about that stuff. I'm just excited. I hope he builds off of what he built last year, because he was a bulldog last year. He did not get hurt. The guy was a Cy Young candidate. He got Cy Young votes last year to go along with Max Fried in that rotation. So, like you said, I anticipate when it's all said and done and Cole's up here, I think it'll be Ryan under the weathers, like you mentioned. That'll be the one getting the boot. Just because his stuff plays more in the bullpen than I think a Ryan Weathers does. I mean, Will Warren does, and obviously you can't take Cam Schlittler out of there or Max Fried, anybody like that. So I do think when it's all said and done, I think the five is going to be, Garrett Cole, Max Fried, Cam Schlittler, Carlos Rodon, and Will Warren. And man, saying that out loud, it made me smile. That is going to be a lot of fun. Yeah, I hope it works out for Ryan Weathers in the bullpen. I really do think he could do a great job in there. And the Yankees, if you were to pick a kind of spot, like rotation, bullpen lineup where like they could use the extra help, I think it would be the bullpen. I did just point out that they had a great series, but they've been kind of inconsistent, and I think they could definitely use another dominant arm. So I hope Ryan Weathers turns out to be that. But yeah, Carlos Rodon, I'm sure, like you said, Spencer Jones is not happy, probably having to face
No.
Mizorowski. I'm sure the Brewers are not happy that they were the ones that now have to face Carlos Rodon making his debut this year.
Yeah, no, I feel bad for Spencer Jones. Um, so yeah, Rodon, and this is Google AI. So and no, I didn't go on AI to research this. You type into Google now, and the top result comes up
That's the
as
first thing
Google
that
AI or
comes up.
whatever. It's the
Yeah,
first thing that comes up. So I'm gonna take
yeah.
it for their word. So if it is incorrect, don't blame me. Rodon had 3 starts in his rehab. The first start was in high A, 4 1/3, no runs, 1 hit, 4 strikeouts, 1 walk, 65 pitches. Second start was the one you were at, double A, Somerset, 5 1/3, 1 run, 5 hits, 8 strikeouts, 75 pitches. And then the third start was the one you kind of hinted at, where he went 6 1/3 with Scranton, 7 hits, 5 earned runs, 4 strikeouts, 2 walks, gave up 2 homers, 85 pitches. So you're right. So you're seeing it's actually kind of funny how that lines up 65, 75, 85, right? So would that kind of tell you
Yeah,
95 and he's out? That's kind of where I think
probably.
it'll be based on those 3 starts. So yeah, anything 95 or below, I would imagine is the kind of the cutoff line for Rodon. So it is exciting to see him come back because you're right with Weathers for a guy like that, a lefty who can throw up to 100 miles an hour out of the bullpen. That is a huge weapon to have at your disposal.
Dude,
And you're absolutely right. His stuff is more catered to a bullpen guy, and it is nice that he does have starter. Like he can be a starter, obviously. If there's ever an injury with Warren, God forbid, somebody else a setback with Cole, like he's someone that can just you can keep him up in that rotation as long as he's pitching, up to a certain standard. He can stay in there and continue what he's been doing. So but yeah, super excited to see Rodon come back because you're absolutely right. Last year was just a workhorse. Him and Freed carried the load with this rotation without Cole, and did as best as they could, given that they didn't have their true ace. Now with Schlittler pitching the way he's been pitching, Cole coming back, this is going to be an insane rotation. At least on paper, they have to prove it. But 3 of the 5, that the other 2 being the 2 that haven't pitched yet that we're talking about, have shown it. So I think it's a fair expectation to assume that once these 2 come in here, it's going to be a just fantastic rotation going forward. The To come back to the Brewers series, game 2, you get Schlittler. You mentioned Harrison, a big time prospect, at least was regarded as big time prospect. I believe he was the one involved. Wasn't he traded for Jordan Hicks at a time? I believe what like didn't the Giants
he was
trade or the Red
traded
Sox traded
with
him to the Giants
yeah, so he was traded with Jordan Hicks in the Rafael Devers trade.
with the Devers trade?
Him
Yes.
and Jordan Hicks came over from San Fran to Boston.
Okay. And
Yep.
so and then I guess he in the Durbin trade then? Is that how he got to Milwaukee?
Yeah, that's a good question. He might have been DFA'd. I'm not even sure. I could look that up real quick. Kyle
Jeez.
Harrison, Brewers. Yeah, I'm not exactly sure.
No,
Yes, he traded him.
I didn't expect you to know it. I
Um,
just was curious because I know I was just trying to think of past deals with the Red Sox in Milwaukee, and I know Durbin was the biggest one, which again we talked about. And if you go back and watch our Red Sox episode, we talked about how bad this offense was, and we talked about Cora getting fired, and the big reason why is because they just couldn't keep the talent, they couldn't pay the talent, they let Bregman walk, and their answer was trading for Caleb Durbin, who's just been atrocious, by the way. So if
yeah,
Harrison
so
was in that trade, that's pretty bad.
he came into Boston within the Devers trade, and then he was out of Boston into Milwaukee in the Durbin trade.
Yeah, that's a it's a bad look right there from
Which
Boston front
it just
office.
felt like as soon as I saw that, like Kyle Harrison was going to be good with the Brewers.
Yeah,
They're
th-
such a pitching factory. They
they
get their
are.
hands on guys.
They are. You think of Milwaukee, you think of pitching. You think Josh Hader, Woodruff, Corbin Burns, Mizrowski,
Freddie
right? Now you add to
Peralta,
that. Who'd you say?
Devin Williams, Freddie
Devin,
Peralta.
right? Devin Williams, Freddie Peralta. I mean, they produce pitchers. They really do.
They do.
Uh, it,
Mhm.
it is quite impressive. CC Sabathia for a time. It is quite impressive what they've been able to do Milwaukee over the time, and even like Uribe out of the bullpen, right? When they kind of I guess when they didn't have Williams and they didn't have Hader, he kind of just stepped up and became their closer and
Oh yeah,
immediately had like 40 something saves in his first year doing it. So it's like,
they have a guy there too that never worked out for them. His name is Craig Yoho, which
oh
one of the
yes.
greatest baseball names I've ever heard. I thought he was going to be like the best player of all time just because of his AAA numbers for them. He didn't actually end up panning out, and I think he's pitched a little bit this year for them and hasn't been that great. But yeah, just they know what they're doing over there. So I knew as soon as they got their hands on a guy like him that they were going to figure out something to do with him.
So game one, again, we talked about that's the game to watch. Game two, and
Yes.
honestly, game three, Andrew, it's tough to make an assessment of what to expect because one, you're facing a guy who not a ton of track record there, and Rodon. hasn't pitched this year yet. Like you don't know what you're going to get. You don't know. We're
Yeah.
we're guessing 95 pitches, but that's if it's smooth sailing, right? If he's pitching poorly early on, that might turn into 75 pitches and he's out of the game. You never really know. So it's tough to kind of predict games. I would say game 3 especially. Game 2 you can kind of predict because Schlittler's on the mound, which we could talk about him since we really haven't touched on him yet. But he did have, I guess, one of his worst starts of the year, and it wasn't even like that poor. But when you're
Yeah,
looking
no.
at a full season of starts and how well he's been pitching, or no, maybe I have this wrong. I thought he had a good start against the Orioles. I guess it's just because when I last saw it, he didn't completely go the 6 innings, but seven. I
I
guess
think
the
he
one
had
thing that
2
sticks out is
walks,
he just gave up
walks.
7 hits. I guess that kind of sticks out.
Yeah,
But he
something like
limited it
that.
just to 1 run. So even despite giving up 7 hits, 1 run.
He had 2 walks in that game, 2 or 3?
Yeah, 3 walks. So he allowed 10 base runners, 7 hits, 3 walks. So I guess that was kind of the
And
one thing that stood out.
yeah, and 2 of those walks were in the end, and that's what really forced him to come out. I think he left with, like, 2 on, 1 out, something like that. But, yeah, I mean, Cape Schiller's it's just super exciting. I expect them to win 2 out of 3, if I'm being honest with you. I
Okay.
expect them to win the series. I mean, until they show me that they're not gonna win the series, I'm gonna expect them to win the series, especially when you're giving me their 2 best pitchers in their rotation right now, and you're throwing in another one who could very well be a top-end pitcher in Carlos Rodon, given we don't know where he's at. You mentioned that, but
Right.
yeah, I take them to win the series. Yeah, they should. I think they're a better team than Milwaukee. I think they're a lot better offense than Milwaukee, and I just hope for a little more length because as good as the bullpen was in that Texas Rangers series, you don't want too many bullpen games again, right, in this series, especially going so many consecutive days in a row here. So not getting as much length from your starters in the last series is okay because the bullpen showed up, but don't make your bullpen go out and do it again too much. I hope for some length. We've got Fried and Schlittler, so in my mind that should be no problem. But with Rodon kind of at a pitch count, it doesn't, not that that pitch count couldn't be 6 innings. He could go 7 innings on a 95 pitch count. But I mean, if things go wrong, it is his first start back in the major league. So you can't really guarantee yourself a ton of length there. So I just hope for length for them from those first 2 games. And then hopefully, if we need it, we have that bullpen ready to go for game 3.
All right. So let's get to our predictions for series MVP. The updated records are down there 4-7 for Andrew. I got a win this week with Bellinger. I'm up to 3-8, if that's anything to kind of celebrate at this point. But uh, you went first last time. You picked Trent Grisham, who admittedly,
Yep.
and I said it in that episode, was going to be my pick. Texas Trent, I just felt it. That was my pick. But then you forced my hand. And then I just wised up and I went with the hot hand and Cody Bellinger. And it ended up working out for me. Guy hit 600, uh, 2 triples. I'll take, or triple, 2 doubles. I'll take it. Had a fantastic series. Now, this is a different series. There's quite a few good pitching options, which I thought about going with Andrew. But you know me, Andrew. I'm a story guy. I'm a storyline guy. And to hell, I'm 3-8. I don't care if it's 3-9 by the next time we're talking to y'all. I'm going with the new kid. Let's go, Spencer Jones. I don't care. Flash in the
Wow.
pan. I don't care. Mizorowski, if he even gets a hit off Mizorowski, I'll count that as a win. I don't care.
Wow.
I am going with the new guy. The Yankees typically it works out with these guys, in my opinion. And that's the one thing that separates us with the Mets. And I don't want to rag on the Mets. This is not the point of this, but when you compare the Mets to the Yankees, the one thing you hear about Yankees or Mets fans is like, just Schlittler worked out, Judge worked out, Rice worked out. Like, where's our bench? Like, none of these guys are panning out for them. Seemingly, it works out for the Yankees, and I just have faith that he makes a splash this weekend. Maybe he knows that he's not going to have a spot by the time this ends, but he wants to make his mark. I'm going to go with the new kid, Spencer Jones. I'm going with the wild card, Andrew. I don't have a whole lot to go off. There's not a single major league at bat or a stat to go off other than AAA numbers, but I'm going with the new kid. That's it.
I'm gonna say the only reason I don't love it is because I just don't know how much he's gonna play.
That's
Like we don't know where Ben Rice is at. If Ben Rice is still kind of hurt and doesn't play 2 of these 3 games, you think the DH spot would be him. I just don't know. I don't know if he's gonna
well,
play that
he's
much
going to
for
play
you. I
left
hope he
field, no?
does. Well, what about Bellinger
Well, I guess you got to sit Grish. I
or
don't know.
Grisham?
I don't know.
I
All
don't,
right,
yeah,
I'll tell you
that's
this
my
much.
point. Like I don't know if he's gonna play a ton, but I hope he does for your sake.
Will the committee allow a contingency pick if he does not play more than like a game?
Yeah, I'll allow contingency pick.
Okay.
Sure, but after I pick my pick.
That's fine. That's fair.
Yes, I allow contingency after I pick my pick, which 100% off the rip, I don't even know who it's gonna be in my head. Uh, I think I'm gonna pick a pitcher, and I think I'm gonna do that because Kyle Harrison, I don't think a lot of the Yankees have seen. I think the only Yankee that's really seen him is Ryan McMahon. It's because of his days in Colorado playing the Giants a couple times. So the Yankees lineup has not seen Kyle Harrison. The Yankees lineup has also not seen Jacob Mrazorowski. Now, those are two things, and Logan Henderson. They
Yeah,
really
right.
haven't seen any of these three guys. So that could work in two ways, right? Those guys also haven't seen our hitters. So it could work as the opposite effect where, the Yankees absolutely pound them. They don't really know what they're doing, whatever. But it also could work in the way that, hey, the Yankees haven't seen this guy a lot. They don't really have a ton on him. Things could go and they could be searching for runs, so to speak, against some of these starters. And I have a guy on the board who's just been pitching absolutely unreal, who's top three in WAR for all those that follow WAR. Shout out our Uncle Rob, who loves WAR, favorite stat. I'm going to take Cam Schlittler to win Series MVP. I really don't love the Brewers lineup all that much. I think they have a couple guys in them that can
Yes.
really hit. I know we're back in time for Jackson Churio. He's going to play this series. He played a little last series as well for them, so we're going to get him back facing us. But I'm going to go with Cam Schlittler. I think he's gonna dominate. I think he's going to have a really good start against Milwaukee, and in a series that I don't predict to be extremely hitter heavy, I'll take the ace on the mound
All right. I love the pick. I celebrated though,
because you weren't
however,
going to pick.
because I wasn't going to go Schlittler. I was going to go the other
Yes.
pitcher, and I was going to go with Max Fried.
Oh,
That
nice.
was my
Okay.
contingency pick because I do think that you're right. Unless Spencer Jones plays a ton and splashes onto the scene like I am hopefully predicting, this should be on paper. Except for I would say game 3 because you don't know what you're going to get with Rodon and you don't know what you're going to get with Henderson. But the first 2 games on paper should at least be somewhat low scoring. I think the importance of Max Fried in game 1, assuming he goes 6 innings, maybe into the 7th inning of 1 2 run baseball where you know it's going to be 1 or 2 run baseball with Mizorowski, maybe even no run baseball with Mizorowski, but keeping the Yankees in the game and giving the Yankees that chance to attack the bullpen of Milwaukee, be able to get a late lead, which we've seen before. I think the importance, and especially if they win the game, I think if they can set the tone, win game 1 of the series with a dominant Max Fried performance against their ace, right? I think that sets the tone for the series. And it sets up your guy, Andrew Schiller, in game 2 to go out there and win the series. And if it goes the way I'm predicting, where
Yeah.
close game down to the wire, first game, Fried pitches very well, sets up Schlittler to win game 2 to win the series against a team like Milwaukee. And again, they're 19-16, so maybe you look at that and go 3 games above 500, pretty decent. But you look at the major league standings, Andrew, especially in the NL Central. I think the worst team in that division is like 19-16 or something ridiculous. It's like the National League is very, very better, very much better than the American League this year. We talked about it pre-show. There's only 2 teams above 500 in the American League, and it's the Yankees and it's the Rays. So it's other than that, the other 13 teams are below 500, and in the National League, it's just everybody beats up on each other.
Yeah, in the NL Central, I think the lowest team in there is the Reds at 20 and 18.
Oh wow,
And if you
you're
pulled the
right.
poll,
You're absolutely right.
yeah, if you grabbed and dropped them into the American League, they'd be the third ranked team, and they're fifth in their own division. So, yeah, it's been an insane division. Obviously, like the Pirates are now playing some really good ball. 4 games over, I saw, and the Reds, who are picking up off of last year, they made the playoffs, and then obviously the Cubs are freaking scorching hot, and you got the Brewers in there as well. So, yeah, a lot of good teams in that NL Central, man, and I'm excited to rough it up a little bit. Hopefully, bring a team down to 500 in that division.
And here's the thing too. Cincinnati, you mentioned 20-18, but they're on a 7 game losing streak. So at one point they were 20-11, and not to mention they are now 1-9 against NL Central teams. So
Wow.
the NL Central, as I said, they're just beating up on each other. But yeah, you're right. The Cubs are in first, 26-12. The Cardinals 21-15 are in second. Pirates 21-17 in third. Milwaukee 19-16 in fourth, and Cincinnati 20-18 in fifth place. So
I will
it's a
I
tight
will
division.
share out loud on this program. I did place a wager, a future wager on 2 MLB teams
Mm.
to make the World Series and face each other. and it is the Yankees and the Cubs. Just
Like
want to put that out there on May 7th.
like an exact matchup, you're saying?
Yankees Cubs World Series. I have Yankees to win the
Wow.
American League. Well, no, they're two different, but they're parlayed, so then they're the same. Yeah, I have
Oh,
Yankees to
okay.
win the American League, Cubs to win the National League.
Okay.
That's what I have.
Which
I'm
by
in
the
love with the Cubs.
way, the Cubs themselves are on a 1, 2, 6, a 9-game win streak. Uh,
I'm in love with them. They're so good.
9-game win streak. They won 2 out of 3 at San Diego. They swept Arizona 3 games, and then they just swept Cincinnati a 4-game sweep. So, yeah,
It
they're
hasn't been
playing
like
some
a
good baseball.
dominant 9-game win streak either. They've been down in a lot of games, and they fight, dude. They really do fight. They fight until the end. And I'm a big fan. They played the Reds, which they continued their win streak against the Reds and continued their losing streak.
Right.
The Reds had a 2 RBI sack fly because Seiya Suzuki caught the ball and then fell into the ivy. So they scored 2 runs off of that in the ninth inning, and the Cubs still won the game. So
Do you know which game that
you know,
was? Was it the 7 Oh,
it was
the
7-6, I believe.
Cincinnati had a 4-run ninth inning to,
Yep. They went from 4-2 to 6-4, and then lost in the ninth, 7-6,
yeah,
something like
your
that.
my boy PCA had a 2-run shot to tie it in the ninth, and then, Michael
They're red
Busch
hot.
walked
So I
with the
love the
bases
Cubs.
juiced. How about that?
Yep.
But yeah, so and to your point, the 3 of the 4 games against the Reds, the Cubs won by 1 run. 2 of them went to extras, and then the game today was 8-3. So that was the outlier.
Yep.
But yeah, the NL Central very very good this year. The American League not so much. So not to say that the Yankees are having this early success due to that, but we'll see, right? The first time that we're going to see them play one of the
Fantastic.
better teams in the National League this year, because that opening series against the Giants, they're not great. So we'll get to see them kind of play some interleague here, have to go to Milwaukee, face a guy in Jacob Mizorowski. We'll see how the offense responds. We'll see how they do. I'm curious to see. Rodon starts this weekend, Andrew. Should be a fun weekend. Spencer Jones called up, even though it was at the expense of Jason Dominguez getting
Awesome.
hurt, which we don't like to see. But we
Also
finally
awesome.
we finally do get to see Spencer Jones. So this will be an exciting weekend. Any final parting words before we say goodnight on this Thursday evening?
Well, I'll say it like we said for the Orioles series. Expect to win the series, but go sweep them.
That's it. Expect the win, but hope for the sweep. That's it.
That's it. That's gonna be the whole thing. The whole program's gonna be that.
Well, and I'll tell you what, they did indeed get the sweep against Baltimore. I remember
Yes,
I think
they
we
did.
started it with that one. They won all 4 games because it's harder, way
Yep.
harder to sweep 4 games than it is 3. Uh,
Yes, it is.
but anyway, all right. Ex-
Dominant fashion.
Expect the win, expect the series win, hope for the sweep. That's the mindset. It will be a tough test on day 1 tomorrow, which is just in a half an hour from now, against Jacob Mizorowski. Game 1, Max Fried, Mizorowski. Should be a fun one. You'll have to watch it, even if you're not a Yankee fan or a Brewer fan. That is much watch television. That'll be one of the better pitching matchups early on in the year. So will be a lot of fun tomorrow. Let's hope the Yankees get a series win. Hope they get a sweep. We'll hope for that as well. We appreciate you tuning in on this late Thursday night. Or if you're watching this back later, make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel. Leave us a comment down below on your predictions, what you think is going to happen in this series. If you like either of our MVP picks, give us your own MVP pick. Maybe if we get enough chatter going on in the comments, we'll have a we'll include like the chat MVP from now on, further on in the
Sure, would
show.
love
If
that.
we can kind of combine and total up how many players were mentioned and add up for the percentage, and then that'll represent the chat, whatnot. Or we can put a poll. I think I don't know if you can do that post live or whatever. But anyway, we'll have some chat representation in there, giving you guys a voice for the show. But irregardless, thank you again for tuning in. I know it was late night. We appreciate it. Follow us on social media. Subscribe